button. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to S.O.A.R class tonight. I was just sharing with our scholars that we are at the end of the road. This is your last instructional class with the advanced series. So we're really excited to jump in tonight. We're going to be talking about your presentations, which are due on Thursday. So last week, you had a pretty heavy writing, um, heavy writing classes, right? You did business writing, you did resume building. They were great classes. I saw some of you have already submitted your resume. I saw Shreya submitted it this afternoon. So your resumes are due. I hope you had a chance. If you weren't able to be here because of an excused absence, you were able to review the recording. That way you can submit your resume, which is a part of your project. So before we actually jump into tonight's class, no problem, Nicole. I'm actually going to share our project with you all so we can talk through what the expectations are. So as I shared, just see if I can extend this a little bit. Here we go. So as I shared, this is our end of course assessment guide. And so your resumes are currently due. So if you can go ahead and submit that to me if you haven't already. We had a great class with Professor Hector. He went over all the key things that your resume should have. And then on Thursday, you all will be doing your presentation. So no one is actually doing the mock interview because you all have businesses. And so that only applies if you were doing a different track in our series, which would have coincided with your project in the fundamentals. So since you all pitched in the fundamentals, you all are doing a business visual presentation for the class, your end of course project on Thursday. You're going to be presenting that. So that presentation could be 3 to 5 minutes. And so this class, Perfecting Communication Through Presentations, that I'm going to be facilitating tonight, really leans into your presentations, what's due on Thursday. So I know one of you submitted your projects already, which is totally fine. Maybe you don't have to make any tweaks after tonight's class because tonight's class is also about how you're going to be presenting, how you're going to be speaking, your oral presentation paired with your visual presentation, what's actually going to be on your slides. So just wanted to put that in context. Any questions about the project? You're going to submit both your resume and a copy of your presentation to info@letssoar. So let me just make sure that's in the chat. We have several email addresses you can send it to, but this is the preferred. You can send that to us. So we have it on file that you submitted that, and you'll be able to successfully complete the advanced cohort. So
So
let me stop
we
sharing.
just sorry, we
That's
just
okay.
submit the resume, and you said something else we gotta submit.
Yeah, so you submit your resume, and then you would also submit a copy of your presentation. So whatever slide deck you're presenting on Thursday, we just need a copy of it. That answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Sure. And a copy of the project guide is in the email reminder that you would have received today for class. Okay, so you should have that, and it should also be on Google Classroom. All right, so that's about your projects. All right, so we are going to jump in. You all know me, Latoya Dawkins, and I'm really excited to be facilitating this class tonight. So let me get myself set up with my screen here. All right, perfecting communication through presentations. Again, this is a build on all the wonderful things that you all would have learned in fundamentals about how to do a very well thought out um, presentation. So this should feed right into what we're going to be going over with you today. All right, so again, I'm Latoya Dawkins. I have an early childhood, a very strong early childhood background. I've been in early childhood for, dare I say, decades. And so I have a bachelor's in early childhood. I have a master's in curriculum and instruction, which pairs nicely with everything that I do now as a supervisor at Rutgers University. So I oversee a group of early childhood trainers, about 16 of them, who train the early childhood workforce across the state of New Jersey. So this could be teachers, teacher assistants, directors, administrators, different folks in those roles. And so I work with a team called Growing J Kids Training Services. I also help create learning products and learning materials. I help review those learning products and materials. I also do data analytics. So I deal heavily with our survey feedback to lend into our continuous quality improvement. That's what the CQI stands for. So I take that information back to the team and we make improvements to our trainings or our practice. I share that information with the trainers. I meet with them, coach, mentor, observe, give them feedback. And it's been a really great journey, where early childhood has been able to bring me, and now doing a lot more on the development side has been a really great experience. I work very closely with our L&D team, our learning and development team, as well as our research and evaluation team, because I deal a lot with the data. I work directly with the state often. We're funded by the Division of Family Development. And so I often work with the state because I also do some training support to their trainers who train on early childhood topics as well. So that's just a little bit about my 9 to 5 background. But my all day, every day are my children and my husband. I am a wife and a mom of two boys, Trey and Jaden. Trey is 10, Jaden is 6, so fourth grade and first grade. And as you know, I'm also one of the directors of this series, the Business and Entrepreneurship Youth Bootcamp series, as well as a director of curriculum and instruction. Oh, thank you. Thank you for the Mother's Day wishes. I appreciate that. It is a joy, literally a joy. One of the best things I could have ever done was have my boys. I love them dearly. And so being an educator is very important to me. I'm also a trauma-informed training facilitator. I train on a topic called Connections Matters, and that's basically to support uh, folks who work with families and children and how to help them sustain better connections. As we know, great connections really impacts brain development for young children. And so that's also work that's near and dear to me, especially because my team that I work with at Rutgers University is at the School of Social Work. So we're very much involved in trauma-informed curriculum. I'm a youth leader, Sunday school teacher, praise and worship team, very, very active in my church. And then also, I love to bake, I love crafting, interior decorating, all the things. So I wanted to check in with you all. How are you all feeling? We're sitting here on this rainy day. At least we're all dry inside. Jaslyn gave me a thumbs up. How's everybody feeling? It's the end of the school year. Are you swamped? Are you overwhelmed? Extracurricular activities, you all have been really busy. How are you feeling? Tired? Sad? Happy? Blessed? Excited? Drop some words in the chat. Let me know how you're feeling. All right, let's see what we got in the chat. Tired, busy but happy, happy, happy. Okay, so there's some good happy. So despite the busyness and the rain, might either be tired or busy or happy. So that's good. All right, awesome. Well, hopefully tonight will energize you and invigorate you. As you know, we're nearing the end of our journey in advance. Definitely not our journey together because once sore, always sore, but it will feel good. I know me, I'm a checklist person, so to be able to bring something to completion always feels nice. So as you know, this is our SOAR proprietary statement that we always share at the beginning of every class, just sharing that the course and content material is for informational and instructional purposes only. Nothing of what's being shared today can be distributed or claimed as your own. And we have that in both English and Spanish. All right, so what are our objectives for this evening? So we are going to apply appropriate communication skills across settings, purposes, and audiences, demonstrate effective use of technology and other platforms to present information, use proper body language and eye contact to convey a particular message, identify how to use language effectively to promote your brand, product, or service, and articulate information in a concise and meaningful manner. We're going to be dealing with a lot of different examples. We're going to be sharing some feedback, getting some critiques about what we're looking at, different presentations that I'm going to show you today. So it's going to be a very nice lens as to where your presentation may be able to go. I want to be sure to be able to provide you with a lot of different examples so that way you can take your presentations, get really creative, and make it your own and feel confident while you're doing it in terms of getting more comfortable with speaking orally. Just curious, I'm just going to stop sharing really quick. How many of you have done virtual presentations, like present it with a slide deck? How many of you all have done that already?
Like I presented with like PowerPoints and stuff, but like through my like computer and stuff, no, like in person.
Okay. All right, so I saw some no's and I heard Michael's feedback. So the good thing is that it's not uncommon, right? Even though we're in this virtual space, so you all are going to be presenting virtually, it's not uncommon in this day and time that this may actually happen in your world, right? Everybody's all over. Zoom is a nice way to stay connected to people who are really far away. So I'm hoping that it will provide you with insights and what you may need in the future should you ever have to present virtually. And then it also will provide you with skills to build on if you have to present in person. It's really the component of the slide deck, how to be creative and how to create it. There's so many different tools now that are out there where creating a really nice slide deck is not so far and out of reach. It's really just pairing that with your oral presentation, with your confidence, with your knowledge, with your information about your business. That's really where we want to hone in on. All right, so thank you all for sharing. I was just really interested in asking about that because it is a unique skill and a unique experience. All right, so communication. So this is a very standard basic definition of communication. However, I think when we think about communication, often what's the first thing that comes to mind when you think about communication? You can unmute, please. I want to hear your voices tonight.
Talking to someone.
Talking to someone. Exactly. Thank you, Nicole. You nailed it. Yes, you always think verbal, right? My mind always goes to verbal. I have to communicate better, right? How do I say words better? Communication has so much other complexities that I think that's important when you're thinking about presenting. And so I really want to hone in on that, that it is the act of sharing information from one person to another or a group, but that information in terms of communication can also come from your body, right? Your body language, what you're showing about your brand with your business. What is your brand communicating? What is your brand language communicating? What are your logos communicating? So it's really more complex than that. And also, it is your verbal communication, being able to confidently speak about your business and what it is. All right. So, how many of you know the show The Office? Just
I heard of it,
curious.
but I never personally watched it.
Okay, so The Office is quite a quirky show. It's one of my favorites. And so I wanted to show an example of what a presentation could look like. Remember, I said we're going to look at quite a few examples today. Well, let's see if I can bring this boldly. Am I still sharing it? Okay, good. We may not watch it all, but just a snippet. And let me just make sure my sound is on. Okay. All right. So let's get back to our presentation for today. So What are your thoughts? What did you see in that example of presenting? Anything you would do yourself? Anything you wouldn't do?
The way he grabbed attention is something I personally wouldn't do by like smacking the thing, but I mean it worked for him. So
Mhm. Absolutely. Anything else you noticed?
Yeah, he's just like a very strong speaker. He's able to like get emotions out of the crowd.
Absolutely. I'm looking to see who was that was talking. Nobody lit up on my screen. Was that Jaslyn? Okay, getting emotions from the crowd. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, I think the way that he presented was very quirky, not your typical presentation, banging, yelling. I'm very much easy to get auditory overload. So yeah, the banging was a little distracting, but I agree with Michael. The way that he did it, he was able to engage his audience. And so I don't recommend it for a business presentation. I think knowing your audience is important. It seemed like this audience was pretty passionate about their work and pretty passionate about what he was talking about. So I think there's different things that we can glean from presenting, but I would say for the most part, you probably would not present this way for your business. So, when we think about what's appropriate and inappropriate communication? So, we saw maybe some behaviors that were inappropriate during a presentation, the banging, the yelling. Um, he kind of threw in salesmen and women, right? Lacking a little bit of diversity in his presentation. What are some things that you maybe have witnessed in a presentation that you saw someone else do that you would go, "Oh, I would never do that," or "Oh, I would do that"? What's something that you've seen or observed?
when he started like being personal, like talking about how like oh everyone like I feel like that's something that I could use in my own thing because like I feel like a lot of us have had like personal like experiences that is like kind of like experienced by everyone, you know what I mean? And like calling on that kind of connects with my audience.
Yeah, I think that's great. Yeah, people want to you are your brand, right? And so you are the face of your brand. So getting to know you helps people get to know your brand a little bit better, especially an investor. They want to know why you're passionate about what you're doing. Sometimes, not even sometimes, most of the time, it's not only just about having a good product, but investors want to invest in you. Go ahead, Olivia.
To kind of add on to what Michael said, like I feel like you should come up with something that like people can relate to. Like also like share your personal experience, of course, heavy on that because like I feel like without having really something that people can relate to, it's like what's the point of even like having that product? Like I'm just naming examples, but like but like I feel like relating to an audience and have
Hmm.
an audience that you can actually relate to is like very important when you're starting a business.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, I agree. Being relatable and passionate about your work. Absolutely. Um, and having other people buy into that as well. So, communication is an essential skill, not just for presenting, right? An essential skill in your everyday life. You all are going to be going to college. You may have to interview and meet with professors. I know I did before I went to the college I went to. I actually had to meet and talk to people. They wanted to interview me. Might have to submit a video application or something like that. So it is an essential skill, and it's not only just about, you know, again, presenting your business. It is about building relationships, establishing goals and expectations with the people that you may work with the people that you will do life with. And oftentimes we can see and especially a workplace that a simple misunderstanding can be the reason why you miss a deadline or you omit an important task. So this could go from having a meeting verbally, not taking the proper notes, or not reading something that you received for your work properly. And so it is a high demand skill. Strong verbal and written communication skills are always in demand in the marketplace. A good communicator is easier to work with and a valuable team player, less likely to drop the ball on big projects. I think about the salespeople sometimes that come to the house, right? They're highly trained to do what? Talk. They're highly trained to do that. They're highly trained to close the deal. I remember one of my first jobs, I was a director at a school, and they were a for-profit school, and so it was a childcare program, and they literally used the term, "We're going to teach you how to sell cars." Right? So, but this is a childcare center taking infants, toddlers, and preschools. But their focus was closing the deal. How do you get the parent to sign up for a spot at the school? Not the best business model, I would say, for childcare. We learned that very quickly. But it was their approach. And so, yeah, getting paid to talk, right? In a sense, I'm sure you may have heard that term before. So, being able to participate with skill in all forms of communication, verbal, written, nonverbal, and visual, is important to getting the job done and also advancing in your business and in your career. That's exactly what we're going to be talking about today. So, the 4 types of communication. Taking a look at these 4 types of communication: verbal, nonverbal, visual, written. Which one do you find the easiest?
Out of these 4,
Out of these 4.
I feel like maybe non. I feel like maybe visual, because like
Visual?
for visual, it's kind of like you need to make it like kind of visually appealing. I know like me personally, like when I scroll like, past a bunch of stuff I don't really like care about, and I feel
Mm,
like I need to keep that into account because people are like they're like me, like if they don't find it interesting, they're just gonna go past it. But trying to make something that is like eye catching, it's like quite difficult because different people find different things like interesting.
yeah, you make a very good point. We're going to talk a little bit more about the importance of visuals when it comes to business. Absolutely. So that's a good point. Yeah, even if you think about social media, the whole point is to draw you in, right? With a snap, like a quick visual, or if you see a billboard, right? They got to grab your attention. So Jaslyn put written and nonverbal. Olivia put written. Okay, those are your easiest. Okay. What about the hardest? Which one of these communication styles do you find may be the hardest for you? And we're going to define it a little bit more. So maybe your answer may change once we talk a little bit more about it. But just at first glance, what would be the hardest for you? Okay, so BJ, do you want to tell us why verbal is the hardest for you? Or Shreya, either one of you want to share why?
Well, the reason verbal is hard for me is like mostly because like you're talking to someone, but sometimes it can either be a topic you're not familiar with or just something you're new to. It's just that for me, it's like maintaining eye contact. Like if it's if it's just me, like right now, like if I'm on a Zoom call, I can see your faces. It's just like I'm not face to face, so now I'm a bit more comfortable talking verbally. But like when it's in person, it's about like keeping eye contact and just making sure the conversation doesn't become awkward or like there's like nothing to talk about. And you also have also presenting, like you also have to talk, but then you also have to worry about if you mess up or not.
Mm, okay, so it's more aware, there's more awareness of your mistakes. And then you actually shared a lot of different things, and I think it's something that we could definitely explore tonight a little bit more, in that you shared that verbally there's an eye contact component, right? So that actually becomes nonverbal at that point. Um, so it's interesting that you shared that. Yeah, so verbal communication can actually cross over into other forms of communication as well. Things getting awkward, body language, things like that. So you definitely brought up some great points. Does someone else want to share? I heard someone unmute.
Um, I would say people because like I have problems like speak like stuttering problems.
Mm,
I mean it's better now, but I still deal with it a little. So
right. Yeah, I definitely understand that. Professor JR, my husband, shared in his class about some of his struggles with stuttering when he was a lot younger, and it has gotten a lot better. But yeah, there's so many different components with verbal communication. I agree with what BJ shared. I know for me, sometimes in social settings, it can be very awkward to engage verbally with someone you may not know. I'm a very natural introvert, but as you know, it doesn't mean introverts are not sociable. It just means that we don't necessarily get energy from being around people. So it can be awkward to have some silence when you're in social settings. In settings like this, I'm completely fine. I do this all day, every day on Zoom. It's those social settings with people that you don't know. And oftentimes that is what business is. I think I've definitely grown over the years, but it takes a lot of practice and a lot of self-awareness, being mindful of your body, being mindful of your eye contact and things like that. So all right, so we're going to talk a little bit about questions to ask yourself as you're preparing to present, communicate, all the things. Looking at these questions, you want to keep in mind, how do I sound? What does my body language say about me? Where am I looking? Can I read the room? I remember there was some tips and tricks I've heard about even verbally communicating when it comes to eye contact. I remember someone sharing if you have a difficult time looking someone in their eyes, sometimes looking in between their eyes helps give the illusion that you're looking into their eyes, but for some people that can be very uncomfortable. So it does give that illusion if you look right in the middle of their eyes. I always give the example of being in this virtual space all the time, even if we think about work or even a school setting. Someone leaning on their face like this in a work environment looks a lot different than someone leaning on their face like this. These different positions, though very minimal in the way that my hand is placed, communicate very different things. This communicates, I could be watching Netflix. This communicates, oh wow, that's a very interesting point, right? So I'm saying these things without actually saying these things through my body language. And then where am I looking? Oftentimes I use two monitors. So I know for me in my own work, I'm always sharing, I'm looking at my monitor, I'm looking at my monitor. So they don't think I'm distracted or that my attention is elsewhere. And then reading the room. I think it's really important to know that you're engaging your audience, that your audience is interested in what you have to say, that you're not losing their interest. Keeping your audience very engaged is also very important. And so these are just four simple questions that you can ask, but can make a huge impact. And then how do I sound, right? So the video that we watched, we were listening to someone yelling and banging, but he sounded passionate to say the least, right? So how do I sound when I'm presenting? Do I want to be here? Or do I just sound like maybe like I just really don't want to be here and like I'm just like killing time, right? So all of that shines through in how you communicate. And communicating is not just verbal, right? It's nonverbal, it's visual, it's all these different pieces. So, the best way to begin to get comfortable with communicating is to record yourself. So, we're going to look at this question. So, I'm going to ask everyone to get out a device, record yourself for 1 minute, asking yourself this question: what special trip or activity would you like to do this summer and why? So I want you to see yourself as you're talking, sit up straight, give really good eye contact to the camera, and we'll come back in a minute and you can share your reflections about what that recording looks like. So you'll need about 2 minutes. So you'll need 1 minute to record, 1 minute to watch it back, and then we'll come back and share your reflections. So I'm going to stop sharing. And I'm going to set the timer. And then you can turn off your cameras and get comfortable and start recording. All right. Scholars, come on back from your recordings and please share your reflections of how that was recording yourself. Who'd like to go first? I could probably hear from a few of you. Nicole, you look like you want to share. Nicole C.
Hello?
Yeah, I can share. When I was looking back at my recording, I realized how fidgety I was. Like I kept I kept like touching my surroundings, like I kept touching like my hair. So
Yeah, thanks for sharing. Go ahead, BJ. I know you
Uh,
unmuted. Oh, I'm sorry. I said BJ,
hello?
and I'm looking at Stefan. Go ahead, Stefan. You're unmuted. Can you hear me?
I really scared because I was like, go back.
Oh, you're breaking up. We can't hear you too well.
I feel really scared because I was moving back and forth like a lot, like more fishy.
Okay. I think I heard you're moving back and forth a lot.
Yeah.
Okay. Hard for you to. Okay. Anyone else want to share?
I kept like looking at something else other than the camera, even though like I don't know, it like made me feel really awkward and like for no reason, even though like it was just like to myself and stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah, so you all shared really great feedback and really common feedback that I've heard. I never knew I did that. I couldn't sit still. I don't know why it felt so weird. Nobody else is here with me. It's just this idea of the pressure, right? Once you hit that record. So it's really interesting, but it is one of the key ways to practice verbal communication or just communication in general. It gives you a really good idea of what you're doing with your body, what you're doing with your eyes, what you're doing with your hands, if you're a hand talker. It also gives you a really good idea of the filler words that you might use, which we'll talk about, the ums, the whats, the so's, the likes, all those different things that can come out when you're presenting. I would encourage you to keep doing that practice as you become more familiar with presenting. All right. Well, thank you all for being brave and doing that. So looking at verbal communication first. Verbal communication is the use of language to transfer information through speaking or sign language. It is one of the most common types often used during presentations, video calls like today, phone calls, meetings, and one-on-one conversations. It's important to be efficient. It can be helpful to support verbal communication with both nonverbal and written communication, hence your presentations. It's important to use a strong, confident speaking voice, especially when presenting information to a few or a group of people. Be sure to use a strong voice so that you can be easily heard. Be confident in what you're talking about. Oftentimes I find that I can speak fast or I can speak fairly slowly, depending, I guess, on what I'm talking about. So I think for me, I've always been working on having a nice cadence in the way that I sound and ensuring that the way that I'm speaking, my words are coming out clear and ensuring that what I'm saying has clarity. So the other side of using verbal communication is intently listening and hearing others, right? So there is this active listening skill that's a part of communication. So that could be on the other side of business. Maybe you're listening to another business owner and seeing how their business can connect with yours. There's all these many different pieces to communication. On Thursday, when you all present, you're going to be listening to constructive feedback. So actively listening to that feedback is going to impact how you present in the future. That will definitely help you grow in being a good communicator. Avoid filler words. I mentioned that earlier after you did your recordings. It can be tempting, especially during a presentation, to use words such as so, or yeah. While it may feel natural after completing a sentence or pausing to collect your thoughts, it can also be distracting for your audience. After every word can really take away from what you're presenting. Try presenting to a friend, record yourself. Try to take a breath in places where you feel tempted to use filler words. Any questions about verbal communication or what I shared? Anything that I shared that you feel you could definitely see yourself working on in the way that you verbally communicate?
I feel like I want to try to use like how I just said, like when I say something like I know what I'm gonna say, I stop having like pauses in between what I like do before like so I don't have to think about it. You know, it just comes like naturally. And to try to have a lot of like evidence and like not just like evidence and like statistics and stuff when I speak, so I can like present to like factually.
Yeah, I think that's a great plan. Sounds like you have some really great reflections already about things you want to grow in. So that's really great. Anyone else?
For me, it's less filler words. Like when I get nervous, I tend to use a lot of filler words.
Absolutely. And that's so common. The filler words are something that's absolutely difficult to lessen. And so through a lot of practice, it can be done. I watch those TED Talks and I'm blown away by the amount of filler words they don't use because it is really difficult. All right, so thinking about nonverbal communication, we're going to watch this quick video about ways to use this form of communication. So let me just stop sharing and make sure it comes up.
Are you really going to miss this? We do this training once a year. There's 800,000 to a million people that'll join us, and it's an opportunity for you at absolutely no cost to figure out how to create a blueprint. Life. How to be able to be in a position where you
Did you ever hear anyone tell you that 90% of communication is nonverbal? Now, as a broadcaster, you will be communicating verbally most of the time, but once you are on TV or on camera, you will have to rely on your body language or your facial expressions to deliver the emotion of your message. If you're delivering a serious story, you probably don't want to be smiling, would you? If you're delivering a happy story, you probably won't want to be too serious either. There are all sorts of ways to practice this, but looking in a mirror can be a big help. Can you raise one eyebrow? It's still one skill I have to work on myself. But by changing your facial expression, you can set the tone for your story without ever saying a word. Another habit you should try to break is not to move your shoulders when you talk or report on camera. Now, you can allow your head to move naturally, as if you are talking to your best friend. If you want to make sure your audience gets your message, don't be afraid to lean forward and look right down the center of that camera lens. Remember, eye contact is how you maintain your connection to your audience. Send me some examples of your happy face, sad face, confused, amazed, befuddled, excited, surprised. And if you are delivering a negative message like, there's no school today, you can always shake your head. There's no school today. Or when it's positive, subtle nods work well too. These are just a few tricks to the trade that can help you become a better communicator on camera and in real life. Good luck.
All right. Did anything in that video stand out to you about nonverbal communication? Oops, sorry. Was there anything that was shared that stood out to you about nonverbal or Anything that was a good reminder?
I
And it
feel
was about
like
broadcasting, so it's a little bit different, but the camera piece is the piece I wanted to hone in on. Sorry, Michael, go ahead.
no, no, it's okay. I just feel like for nonverbal communication, a lot of it's like kind of like in the moment, like natural. You know what I mean? Like when you talk, you don't just like sit there like straight face. You know what I mean? Like you express yourself. And I feel like just like, making faces or just using like your hands or like just your body, like in general, is just like a good like starter, like to get on like verbal communication. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. I think, yeah, being body awareness is key when we think about nonverbal communication. I was looking at even the person presenting the video. He had his hands kind of folded together, kind of like, creating an image of what does this communicate to you? I want to hear from you. What he was holding his hands like this in place. What does that body language say to you?
He's like sophisticated, like intelligent. Like, he knows what he's talking about.
Okay, and he's a broadcaster, right? So you want to be able to trust your broadcaster. So it would be in his benefit to look like he knows what he's talking about. I think about like let's say closed body language. If someone was presenting the news with their arm folded, right? Does that look like someone you might want to trust? What does this communicate if your arms are folded?
It's like you're like you don't care, like you're just like not engaged,
Hmm. Absolutely. I have a friend who has a master's in mental health, and I remember when we were in college, she was talking to me one time, and she was always telling me things about myself because she just loved to, I don't know, give me on the spot therapy. I felt like using her practice in school. But one time she was talking to me, and my arms were folded and my legs were folded, and she was like, "I could tell by your body language you're not listening to me." So it is interesting the things that our body language communicates. I think when you learn that it's yeah, it definitely is a skill to have, especially in the business world. So you want to notice how your emotions feel. I can't tell you how many times we've done this series and we've had scholars who've done presentations if we've been like, "Are you happy about your presentation?" Because it doesn't shine through in the way that they communicate, in the way that they sound, even how he shared, if you're talking about something serious, then we probably shouldn't see a smile. We've heard some really great businesses about serving the underserved, the homeless, or different people, children who've suffered trauma or different experiences like that. So being very mindful of how you're communicating that, what your facial expressions look like is so important because when you're presenting to someone, you want to make sure they see and feel the seriousness of what you're talking about. Now, if you're talking about something playful, and of course I'm thinking about Cat Cafe, you want to make sure that's communicate it through your facial expression, right? That you're, communicating the happiness and joy that cats can bring. So it's just something to be aware of. And so we want to be self-aware, body aware when we're presenting what we feel in our bodies. Now, anxiety and nervousness are completely normal feelings when you're presenting, right? People say, what do they fear the most? Is presenting is close to death. So it's a very scary experience for most people. So embracing that, feeling that in your body and being aware of that, and then how to remedy that with other things that you can do. Maybe there's some type of self-soothing, maybe having something in your hands, not physically, maybe if you're presenting, but kind of being aware of what your hands are doing. Maybe you need to kind of like move your fingers around a little bit when you're talking. Maybe talking with your hands helps kind of loosen your body up a little bit. And you don't have to do that incessantly, but you can do it as a way to just kind of breathe and let go of some of that nervousness in your body. And so I've been more self-aware of this, especially doing conferences and things like that. So it definitely is a key skill. All right, so nonverbal communication. Notice how your emotions feel physically. Be intentional about your nonverbal communication and mimic nonverbal communications you find effective. So just how I showed, the hand on the face or the hand on the neck, all of those things are really important. And so I would say watch someone, maybe it's a broadcaster, maybe it's Shark Tank, maybe it's TED Talk, watch someone that you're like, wow, I love their body language, and try to start mimicking those ways that they communicate through their body and practice it. Get in the mirror, record yourself. You don't have to reinvent the wheel here, but you do have to practice it and get comfortable with communicating nonverbally in a way that makes sense and feels comfortable for you and your own body. So you want to mimic, but you also want to make those movements your own. All right, so this is a great conversation. I feel like this is a natural pause. So let's go ahead and take a 10-minute break because I'll see you back all here at 7:35. All right, welcome back, everyone. I hope you had a great break, was able to get something to drink, move around, move your body. We are going to jump back in to our different forms of communication. So far we've talked about verbal communication, we talked about nonverbal communication, really honing in on what those skills are, how to eliminate filler words and verbal communication, being aware of what you're doing with your body and nonverbal communication. So now we're going to move on into visual communication. All right. So let's take a look at these top brands. So at the top of the screen, you will notice we have Apple. So it might be a little bit small on your screen. Let me see if I can make it a little bit bigger. Okay, so it says to challenge the status quo, to think differently. Just want to talk through these visuals a little bit. Tell me about this from Apple. What about that symbol, that black bitten into Apple says to challenge the status quo and to think differently?
Can you repeat the question, Miss?
Sure. So thinking about visual communication, we want to define what that is. How are we communicating through brands, through our logos, through the different images that we provide around our brand? We're talking about that form of communication. So thinking about Apple and them having this quote here to challenge the status quo, to think differently, do you feel like that shines through with their logo?
I
Yeah.
think,
Is the
yeah.
O
Sorry, are there like multiple people speaking? Or is there feedback coming from you, Michael? I can't tell.
yeah, both.
Okay. All right, sorry, Michael, do you want to say what you said again?
Oh, I was gonna say yeah, because it thinks differently because instead of like a red apple, you have like a black apple. Usually when people think of apples, it's like red, green, and maybe like even a yellow. But here they just have like a fully black apple. And for me, like challenging the status quo is seen by them biting the apple. You know what I mean? It's just like instead of like a whole, it's just like bitten, which is like kind of
Mm,
weird. But I mean, I guess it's challenging it, taking a bite out of it.
yeah, absolutely.
Also, like if you like, I don't know if I'm reaching, but
Hmm.
to me, it's kind of like an illusion. Like like biting the apple, like Eve, like challenging the status quo of like the Garden of Eden. If you want to think of it like in a religious type of sense, it's kind of like referencing it because she's challenged the status of like the rules. You know what I mean? And then taking that bite out of it could also symbolize that.
Wow. We've done a lot of series. I don't think I've ever heard a deeper meaning, but wow, yeah, that's definitely something to think about. All right. Very cool. All right, let's think about Google to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. Does their logo communicate that to you? And if so, how?
Like, not necessarily, but I will say, like, the uniformity that's shown through the logo is kind of like, oh, like, you look up anything, the databases are all there organized for you. And, like, the colors.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean organized, right? So the way that their font choice is clear. I can't tell you how many with my job with creating learning products, fonts are actually something we've had deep conversations about, the best font choice, because when you're dealing in early childhood, I can't have an A that doesn't look like the standard A. So like, the A that has the little hook at the top and then it's an A. That doesn't really work well in the classroom, right, with young children, because they're just learning how to write a regular A. And so I'm sure brands have had to get their fonts uh, proprietary, right? They have to own their fonts so nobody else will use it. So, yeah, font choice, colors are all very important when it comes to visual communication. Let's do one more. I'm looking at, let's see, Tesla to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy. Do you feel like their brand communicates that?
Yeah.
Okay, and why?
Because we're always going to take down new technology. Mm.
Okay, I believe I heard efficient with technology.
Can you hear me properly? Or because my voice kind of bad right now.
Sorry, yeah, we can't hear you too well. Why don't you put it in the chat? Or maybe you want to, okay, he's going to sign out and sign back in. Anyone else about Tesla to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy? Does this shine through in their brand? What do you think, Nana?
Like, um, like to get like more electric cars in the world and like kind of like I don't know how to explain it, but like
Well, do you think their visual brand says that? If you look at Tesla's logo here, the red with the incomplete E and the A, do you feel like that communicates to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy? Okay.
yeah,
What about the design here says that to you?
like on the A there's like top of A there's like a line,
Mm-hmm.
and then also the E, and just like overall the font in general.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it kind of gives a little bit of like what would be the word? Like a futuristic look to it, right? A world with sustainable energy, which is not what we have right now. We're just using up energy left and right, right? So, yeah, I definitely agree with that. Let's do one more. Disney to create happiness for people for all ages everywhere. To create happiness for people of all ages everywhere. What do you think? Does that shine through in the way that they write Disney here? What do you think? Let's hear from maybe Nicole or BJ. Anyone can jump in. What do you think? Steven, is your sound back?
Hello?
Oh, good. We can hear you.
Is it still the same? Or
No, you sound much better.
um I would say no.
Oh,
Because
okay. Why?
it looks like kids not for all ages.
Mm, okay.
So it's like a specific age group, not for everybody, only for like a certain type.
Okay.
I mean, if they said like for kids, it would be yeah, but it doesn't. So
Okay, well, I could definitely tell you that their revenue might say otherwise, only because kids can't go to Disney by themselves. Who has to bring them?
Uh, oh yes.
Yeah, the parents have to bring them. So Disney is made into a family experience, right? I have a coworker who has no children. She goes to Disney twice a year. So the marketing is definitely working. We were just there ourselves in March, and people come from all over the world. So I think it's really a testament to these brands how important visual communication is. So as you're thinking about your business, how is your message or mission or vision going to shine through in how you design images around your brand, right? What is your palette, your colors going to look like? What are they going to communicate, right? So Michael with your band-aids, right? What colors are you going to use? What font are you going to use in your logo? For the cat cafe, right? Is there going to be a little coffee cup designed into one of your letters for cat cafe? Are your colors going to be brown and orange? I don't know. I'm thinking about cat colors. She's like, no, they're not going to be brown and orange, which is probably a good thing because in the food industries have really important colors. Think about any fast food place you can think of. What colors do you remember about that fast food place?
Um, I would say yellow,
Yes. Give me another one.
red.
Yes. Right? If you think about any fast food place, you could think about McDonald's, you could think about
Popeye,
Burger King. Say that
Popeye,
again.
Popeye's KFC.
Something I
Popeyes.
heard, like out of I don't know when, but I heard that the colors like red and yellow are like colors that make people like hungry, like something to
Mm-hmm.
like the receptors, like your hunger thing. I don't know if it's like true or not, but that's what I heard.
Mm-hmm. It is true. Yeah, it's psychology has to do with food and what it triggers the brain, like for hunger and desire, right? So those colors lean into that. So maybe for Cat Cafe, even though you might be serving food, but food won't be your focus. Your focus will be on cats' mental health. So maybe you'll be using more calming colors, right? Maybe more of a softer palette. So definitely things to think about when we think about hospital brands use a lot of blue, right? Blue gives a lot of clean, and the impression of being clean. We think about maybe energy, sustainable energy. We're looking at colors like maybe green, things like that. So definitely pretty and a lot of details to think about when you're thinking about brand. So also thinking about brand language, right? So we have these different types of language. Um, we had in different series, different scholars. We came up with some fun language. So, maybe with the cat cafe, there's something about cats, maybe one of your menu items is catnip or I don't know, things that you can kind of tie in your brand language, right? Which really hones in and emphasizes your brand. So, brand language is the body of words, phrases, and terms that an organization uses to describe its purpose or in reference to its products. Brand language is used in marketing to help consumers connect specific words or ideas to specific companies or products. When developing a brand language, word choice and tone are the two fundamental components. Word choice is vocabulary that is used in a marketing or advertising, while tone refers to the attitude of the advertisement. Tone is not limited to language. It can also be incorporated through visual elements as well as delivery. So let's think about Apple. Apple uses really simple terms, phone, pad, tunes. Everything's very shortened, cut and dry to the point. But if you look down at number 5, Apple also uses connectable language, right? So everything is iPhone, iPad. Years ago, I don't know if you remember this, but iPod, right? There's all these different things that are connectable to their language. Let's look at something else. Emotional, be all that you can be, right? There's this emotional or aspirational, just do it. What brand is that? Just do it.
Wasn't that
Who knows?
Nike?
That's Nike,
Nike.
right? Mm-hmm. That's Nike. Just do it. Then we have unusual language, right? Can't go to Starbucks and ask for a medium, right? You have to ask for a grande. Can't go to Starbucks and ask for a small. You have to ask for a, anyone know what a small is at Starbucks?
Is it a venti?
That's the biggest one. The venti is the biggest one. It's a tall. You have to ask for a tall, right? Then we have open language, like a good neighbor. I
Stay
saw Michael say
there.
it.
State
Yeah,
Farm is there.
State Farm is there. Oh my goodness, the magic of jingles. We had so many jingles in the 80s and the 90s. Jingles are just a great way to increase brand language, right? Like a good neighbor, you're literally saying State Farm is there. You can never forget that. Um, then we have what else we have? Uh, you're in good hands. What brand is that? I don't know. You guys would know that.
State.
What'd you say, Jaslyn?
Allstate.
Allstate. Yes, you're in good hands. What about what's in your wallet?
Is it Capital One?
Wallet.
Capital One. Yes, Capital One. What about, I'm just thinking, oh, this is a good one. When I was growing up, the commercial would say, "Taste the rainbow."
Say it
That's
again.
Skittles.
Sorry.
It's Skittles, yes. Taste the rainbow. Or I think about maybe she's born with it, right? And then it's almost like open because then you would go, maybe it's Maybelline, right? So there's so many different things that you can do with your brand language. So it's not just you have a brand, you have a name, you start to develop your brand language. So really start to think about that, whether it's Band-Aids, Cat Cafe, real estate that I know Nicole C is going to be doing, whatever it is that your business is going to be addressing, the audience that you're going to be addressing, there could be some creative ways to really hone in on your brand language that can literally make people remember you just by that alone. All right, so we're going to talk about how to start a presentation. So we do have a quick video here that we're going to watch just for some key skills about that.
It always strikes me how people think about their presentations or how they prepare their presentations. And I'm actually talking about the first words, the first sentences of a presentation. What most people do is they think of a presentation, so automatically you think about a PowerPoint. So you make your slides. You look at your slides and you think about what will I say showing each slide. But my question to you is this. What are your first words? What are the first sentences? Very few people think about that. Just think a minute about the presentations that you have already seen in the past, maybe the presentations that you have done yourself. There is a cliché sentence that most speakers use to introduce their topic. They say something like, good morning, good afternoon, my name is, if they don't know you. And then there is this typical sentence, today I'm going to talk to you about. Now you might say, so what's the problem? The problem with this sentence is that you're actually answering the wrong question. You're answering the what question. What are you going to do? I'm going to talk about. If you think about it, most audiences know what you're going to talk about. Either you are introduced, or there is a program, or there is a meeting, so there is an agenda, so people know what your topic is all about. The most interesting question to answer is the why question. Why are you there to talk about this topic? And even more important, why is it important for the audience to listen to you? So my advice for you is to focus on the why question. Now, how can you do that? I advise people to focus on a story to begin their presentation. Now, if you think about stories, stories begin with a time frame. Just look at fairy tales. They start with once upon a time. I'm not going to suggest that you start your professional presentation with once upon a time, but you can start with a time frame, something like yesterday, 2 weeks ago, last year, 3 months ago. Now, what's the kind of story that you can share then? Use real stories. It has to be something that happened to you. It has to be something that you heard. So you can refer to a conversation you had with a colleague. You can say something like, yesterday I had a conversation with, but then there has to be a reason why you refer to that conversation. And there is this linking sentence that I use in lots of presentations. I tell my story, and then I continue saying, now, why do I tell you this? Because my objective or my goal with this presentation is to. So what you can do is be very conscious of the company stories, I might say. It can be something that happened with a customer. It can be an article you read. It can be something that you heard about. It can be a conversation you had. So use these stories to begin your presentation, link them to your goal, and it will be so much more interesting for your audience because it will be crystal clear for them from the very first minute why it is important to them. So next time you prepare your presentation, focus on that why question and tell them a story.
Okay, so you want to focus on a why, tell a story, and then link in the objective of why you're sharing that story. So this really hones in on some of what was covered in fundamentals, or even most of what was covered in fundamentals. I think the difference here is that you're now going to have 3 to 5 minutes to do this, right? So in fundamentals, you have this 30 seconds to 1 minute to really present your business. Now you have a bit more time to take your time to be really thoughtful about what that story may be. And then we look at the end of your presentation, right? So we're going to get rid of those cliche endings. We're going to start and end with the same strong statement. We're going to make good use of the intonation in your voice. And if all is lost, you can simply say thank you in your ending, right? You don't say, I'm done, or that's it. You want to make sure that your presentation is professionalized. All right, so I wanted to share with you, AI is a big topic right now. And I know that when you had class with Professor Hector, he went over some AI tools that you can use to build your resume. So I wanted to show you a presentation that was submitted, when was this? Maybe in 2024. And this is all online, so it's nothing private. It was one of our scholars. Her name was Shania, and she ended up being a top scholar actually. And she had a business, a soul food business. So I wanted to show you what I put into ChatGPT because I wanted ChatGPT to create a presentation for me. And so I want to show you the prompt, and then I want to show you what I had to do to get ChatGPT to give me what I was asking for. So the prompt starts here. What would be a good way to turn this into a 3 to 5 minute presentation? I would love to add data about the food or soul food industry, how often people patron restaurants, the sustainability for these types of restaurants, and anything else you think might be useful. And this is what she wrote. Good evening. I'm Chef Shania and the owner of Shania Soul Food Restaurant that specializes in diverse cultural cuisines, bringing people of all different backgrounds together through my love of food. I'm passionate about cooking soul food because I enjoy seeing my customers come together to experience worldly dishes, introducing them to traditional, non-traditional recipes made with fresh produce, products, and homemade seasonings. I feel that this is an opportunity. This opportunity has prepared and provided me the tools to help grow my business. So great paragraph, right? Pretty detailed. She gives the why behind why she's doing what she's doing, her passion, and what the business could be. And so this is what ChatGPT gave me. It actually gave me a title, Shania Soul Food, a culinary experience that connects uh, cultures, right? So that might be some brand language made there. Then ChatGPT gave me an introduction. But look how it starts. Good evening, everyone. My name is Chef Shania, and I'm the proud owner of Shania Soul Food. So the moment I saw that, I asked ChatGPT to rewrite it. Please rewrite and begin the presentation with a story. And of course, the robot said, absolutely. So, starting with a story is a powerful way to connect your audience emotionally and set the tone of the presentation. Below is a rewritten version of your 3 to 5 minute presentation, beginning with a personal story. Now, let's look at this 45 to seconds. So, ChatGPT broke down all the timing for this 3 to 5 minute presentation. It says, I still remember the first time I made my grandmother's mac and cheese on my own. I was 13, nervous and determined to get it right. The kitchen was filled with the smell of butter, baked cheddar, and a little too much seasoning. But when my family took that first bite, they smiled, not just because it tasted good, but because it reminded them of something deeper: family, comfort, and tradition. That's when I knew food had power, right? So you see the difference in hi, my name is, right? So she gave her story, she connected to her why, and she gave, well, we didn't even get to the objective yet, but she did give her story. All right, and then it goes into good evening. I'm Chef Shania, and I'm the owner of Shania Soul Food Restaurant, a space where I bring people of all backgrounds together through culturally rich cuisine. My passion lies in cooking soul food, not just the traditional dishes, but also creative global twists that honor history while inviting something new to the table. And then it goes through all this background. So we get a little history about African American resilience. We get some marketing data. The US restaurant industry topped 1 trillion in sales in 2023. All of this would have to be vetted and reviewed and researched. We don't want to just trust the robots and what they tell us, so we have to review that. And it says, and soul food, along with other ethnic cuisines, is among the fastest growing segments. So now it's very important with ChatGPT, while it is a tool, right? They're breaking down all the time frames here. They're giving you a story. Is this actually Shania's story? You know, they probably pulled from the original script that I gave them, but you're going to want to tweak this, right? You want to make sure that the story is true. You want to make it your own. You want to make sure that this data that they're providing, in fact, 71% of diners say they're most likely to visit a restaurant that offers a unique story or cultural connection. And that's exactly what Shania Soul Food delivers. So you want to make sure that 71% is factual. And then you want to review and vet everything else. At the end of the day, my goal, this is the closing. At the end of the day, my goal is simple: to make people feel seen, nourished, and connected, one plate at a time. Thank you for giving me the space to share not just my food, but my story. They asked me if I wanted a slide deck. It actually gave me that as well. So it broke down what could be on the title slide. So we're going to go over that next, of what it would take to make a good PowerPoint. So let's look at what it would take to make a good PowerPoint before we look at what ChatGPT gave me for Shania. So you want to think about, what does your audience already know? What new information can you teach them? What are they expecting from your presentation? What's going to be interesting to them, and what will keep them focused and engaged? So whatever you're talking about with your business, you want to make sure that you're aware of what the audience needs to know about your business. 3 to 5 minutes is a pretty decent amount of time, given that you already did an elevator pitch for 30 seconds to 1 minute. So now it may even seem like time has opened up for you to talk about your business. But when you're actually presenting, it can go by fairly quickly. So you want to make sure that you're really giving the information that your audience needs. Okay, so let's go back to Shania, and this is what ChatGPT gave me in terms of the design of what to put on the title slide. Very simple, right? It's not a ton. Shania Soul Food, a taste of culture, a sense of home. Chef Shania, owner and the head chef. So it's very title, subtitle, presented by. Then we look at slide 2. Maybe they give an image suggestion, a cozy kitchen, or a childhood photo. And then text. I made my grandmother's mac and cheese for the first time at 13, right? Maybe you want to stop there. Maybe you don't want to add all this text that ChatGPT is suggesting, but it's very helpful. Just if you need to get some ideas off the ground, right? ChatGPT is here to assist and help you ideate. It's not here to do the work for you. You saw that my prompt was pretty hefty, but it is a valuable tool if you are looking to think about what would be impactful on your slides, what's important information to have. And you can even put in the guidelines that we went over today. Okay, ChatGPT, I need, let's go back to, let's see, the how to start a presentation, right? I need a focus on my why. Here's my why. I want a story. You could write like one sentence of a story, and here's my objective. Here's why I'm presenting on this today. And ChatGPT could put all that together for you with the close, and then you can go in there, tweak it, make it your own, put your own voice and brand language into it. Okay, so ChatGPT is only there to assist, not to do the work for you. And so again, this is also on the Google Classroom, but this is just some tips about how to make world-class presentations. Again, know your audience, tell a story, use good visuals, convey one idea per slide. So you don't want to have too much on your slide. You want to make sure you don't have a lot of visual clutter. If people don't know where to focus their attention, they won't know where to look on your slides. Keep it simple. You want to avoid death by PowerPoint when you're presenting. So, worst case scenario, your slides don't work. I'm not talking about Thursday. Hopefully, your slides work on Thursday. But if in real life you're presenting something, you want to make sure that if your slides don't work, you now don't have a presentation. No, you want to make sure you know your presentation. Invest in your skills. That's what we talked about before, right? You want to watch all of those TED Talks, all of those Shark Tanks, and then you want to anticipate anything that might come up as questions or any kind of answers that can be any type of questions that could be answered through your presentation. So you want to anticipate that and maybe include that in your presentation. And then you want to provide a clear call to action. We talked about this even in the fundamentals, right? Even in your pitch, right? What do you want the audience to do next? There has to be some level of accountability to your business for the customer to take the next step. So you want to make sure they know how to call, look up your website, register, check out, all of these different ways that we communicate for them to have a call to action and to do something next. So in terms of platforms, there's tons of platforms I'm sure you all know. One of the ones that I want to point out, so obviously we have PowerPoint, Mentimeter, we're on Zoom, Google Meets, all the different places that you can do your presentation. And then of course there's other like polling software that you can use if you want your audience to engage. Earlier when we started this presentation, I asked which form of communication was easiest for you, which one was hardest. That could have been a poll, right? You could have in the past I've actually done it that way, but you could have other things built into your presentation to make it creative and engaging. But Canva is one of the ones I wanted to draw your attention to. If you've never heard of it, if you never used it, Canva is actually starting to connect to AI. And so you can actually take what is in ChatGPT and put that into Canva, and Canva will create a presentation for you. It is a bit quirky in the sense that their AI extension is a bit new, so it doesn't always work well, but I have used it before to at least get some information on slides. I'm going to stop sharing. Anything that I shared about presenting that you like to chat about, or anything you're starting to think about for your presentation, something you like to prepare or think about a little bit differently.
Do you think you could like in the chat put like a not a rubric but kind of like a guide, kind of like like a format that I could kind of like follow? Because like I have like a rough draft of my presentation. Like, it's still like in pretty early development. I still gotta add a lot more information and stuff. But you think you have like a format that you're like, okay, so slide one, made like the first slides focus on this, and then transition into like, you know what I mean?
I could, but here's what I will say. I do want you to have creative freedom. So, yeah, the first slide is going to be fairly basic, right? Similar to what I shared on ChatGPT is going to be the title of your business. Maybe you want to put a quote in there. It's also going to be your name, possibly, or something like that. Or you may want to go in a different direction, not so far off script, but maybe in a different direction. So I'm going to show you a few different examples, Michael, of what your presentation could look like. And so maybe by the end, if you want a bit more of a guide, I can share that with you. But I'm curious to see how you feel by the end of class. Because I feel like some of the things I'm going to share a little bit later may open up like your mind to maybe some other things you might want to do with
Yeah,
your
like I'm
presentation.
totally down to just like, just like do it myself, like my stuff. I just wanted to know if there was like a specific format we had to follow.
No,
Because
there isn't a
if
specific
there's not, then
formula.
it's fine. Then don't worry about it.
No.
I'll make it Michaelized.
Oh, I love your brand language. Very nice. All right, so yeah, have that creative freedom. We definitely are excited to see it. Let me go back to sharing. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to watch this person do a presentation and then we'll have a little chat about it. So let me just make sure the YouTube comes up. Okay.
Hello everyone, welcome to Public Speaking. Today's first presenter is Ranjit, and I would ask everyone to give him their full attention. Chantal, could you dim the lights, please?
The British imposed a lot of unpopular taxes on the American colonists and didn't let them elect representatives to the British government. In retaliation, the Americans started to boycott British goods. In 1773, Americans in Massachusetts dumped a shipload of British tea into Boston Harbor. This became known as the Boston Tea Party. As punishment, the British imposed laws known as the Intolerable Acts, including the Quartering Act, which made Americans let British soldiers live in their homes. Some of the American colonies created a Declaration of Rights and Grievances, which they sent to Britain, but the British just sent soldiers to the colonies to put down any rebellion. This led to the first battles of the Revolution at Lexington and Concord.
Thank you, Ranjit. I know it's very hard to give a presentation in front of the entire class. Now, would anyone like to offer Ranjit constructive feedback about his presentation? Any tips for what he might do differently next time? For example, were you all able to hear what Ranjit was saying?
Not really. He needs to speak louder and face the audience.
Yes. Great suggestion. Anyone else?
He was reading from his paper, so it didn't feel like he was really talking to us, you know?
Exactly. It's important when you're speaking to look up every sentence or two and make eye contact with someone in the audience. Anything else that Ranjit could do to appear more relaxed and feel more confident?
He could smile more.
Yes, smiling makes us feel relaxed. Oh, and make sure your phone is off before you speak next time. I do have one more suggestion. To connect with listeners, it's a great idea to use a personal story or experience as an example. Can you try that next time?
I think so, yes. Next week, my presentation will be about the causes and effects of stress.
We look forward to hearing it. Ranjit is first up again today, and I look forward to his new presentation. Jorge, could you dim the lights, please?
Good morning. Today I'd like to talk about the causes and effects of stress and how to cope with stress. Stress has many causes, including work or school, life events, changes, or unrealistic expectations of yourself. Some effects of stress include headaches, trouble sleeping, depression, or lack of concentration. I know how hard it can be to deal with stress. Last year, I started working after school to save for college, but I didn't have time to do homework and my grades went down. I had trouble sleeping, I only ate junk food, and I stopped hanging out with my friends. Fortunately, I was able to talk with a school counselor to manage my stress. She suggested that I reduce my hours at my job, eat healthy foods, and get some exercise. So I literally started walking home from school and bringing my lunch. I also asked my teachers for extra help. Now, I feel better. It's important to recognize when you're stressed and to ask for help. Thank you.
All right, anyone want to point out some of the changes they saw, not just in his presentations, but also his PowerPoint as well?
He was like smiling a lot more. He was looking at the audience. He like overall looked more engaged.
Thank you. Anyone else? What about his presentation? I saw some changes in the first one he did compared to the second one. I don't know if you all were looking at that.
The only thing I noticed, like when I looked at it, is how it said continued. So I'm gonna assume that he had more slides in this one than the previous one.
He talked more fluently.
Okay. Felt like his cadence was better. Yeah, his PowerPoint, the first one had sentences and little tiny pictures at the end of the sentences. But in his second one, he had like bullet points with one big picture. So it definitely was more visually appealing. So those are just, and that was in person, right? That was presenting live in front of people, not necessarily online. So tonight I do have a treat for you because I was able to find one of our scholars. So this was a top scholar, Roberto. He was in our spring 2023 series, and I found the presentation he did that I wanted to share with you all because you'll be able to see an actual example of a virtual presentation done by one of our very own top scholars. So let me share my screen, or not share my screen, but press play.
Yeah. All right, well, welcome everyone. Today I want to engage you all with a compelling story. So picture a man standing amidst a vast, beautiful forest. He is deeply troubled by the rampant deforestation threatening our planet. But his mind turns to bamboo, a versatile plant that grows faster than any other woody plant in the world. Bamboo, he realizes, can be an effective alternative to traditional wood products, reducing deforestation. So he begins with a tangible, everyday product, 100% bamboo toilet paper. With every purchase, consumers are contributing to planting more trees, pushing forward the wheel of reforestation. However, like many idealistic ventures, the path to success was not straightforward. Did you know that 14% of businesses, despite their potential, fail due to ineffective marketing? Well, this is where we, the Spirit Company, steps in. We are a social media marketing agency that specializes in Facebook and Instagram ads, two of the most influential platforms in today's digital world. Our partners, e-commerce companies, but not just any e-commerce companies. We work exclusively with those who have a valuable mission to benefit our planet, just like our friend with the bamboo. But why do we do this? Because when these mission-driven companies grow, we grow, and in turn, the world benefits. But why do we do this exactly? Oh, should I hold it? I said it all out. All right, sorry about that. But what about right now? What's our focus at this very moment? Well, we're geared up to bring 3 such company missions to life. But how do we plan to achieve this? Well, by driving a consistent 10% increase in website traffic every month, leading to higher sales and an increase of valuable lifetime customers, we will. Well, I'm blanking out right now. I'm a little bit nervous. Sorry about that. But we will achieve 3 company missions. But how exactly do we plan to achieve this growth? We invest anywhere between $1,000 to $10,000 a month in ad spend, with the target of achieving at least a 2 times return on investment. And if we can consistently do this every month, in just 36 months, we will have brought 3 company missions to life. But why choose us for this journey? Well, the answer, it's simple. You see, we have a team of expert marketing specialists well versed in the nuances of social media advertising. We promise round the clock communication, ensuring that you're always in the loop. Our goal is to simplify the entire process for you, making your journey with us seamless and enjoyable. And on top of all of this, we offer the first 30 days of service absolutely free. But we're not just offering a service, we're offering a partnership. We're inviting you to join a quick virtual Zoom meeting with us and to begin growing with us together. Because together, we have the power to change the world, one mission and one company at a time. We are the Spirit Company, where your mission is our mission. Thank you.
All right. So that was Roberto's presentation. What were your thoughts and reflections seeing a scholar present virtually?
He didn't use a lot of like words. Like he gave off his own information without us having to like read a lot. It was more just like us listening and like him describing.
Mm-hmm.
It was like
Yeah.
little, like no clutter, because it was just like pictures. It was like barely any clutter. It was appealing.
Mm-hmm. Appealing. Yep. No clutter. I love those descriptions. Well, Stefan, I saw you on mute, but I can't hear you. Anyone else? Someone we haven't heard from? Oh, you're back, Stefan. I think you're moving now. Okay, but we can't hear you if you are talking. Stefan, can you hear us? Okay, he can hear us. All right. We can't hear you, so I don't know if you want to put it in the chat. No problem. Anyone else want to share? Was that helpful for you seeing another scholar present virtually? Did that kind of put some things in perspective of different creative ways you might present on Thursday? Maybe how you might design your PowerPoints. Now, I will have to say, I thought Roberto did a great job, even despite his words and some mistakes that he made. I felt like he did a great job. And that's fine. We're not looking for perfection. With this as a learning space. And so all things considered, he did a really, really great job. And I think for us, we were blown away. It almost felt like you were seeing a commercial, like a live commercial. Now I know for me, with presenting, the clicking that he was doing would be a lot for me. I would need to have a guide unless I had a guide in front of me that said click here after every phrase where I was supposed to click. That would be a little distracting for me. But for him it worked. And I think that's the key, right? Is finding your style in the way that works for you. What did you notice about his body language?
He used his hands a lot when he spoke.
He used his hands when he was really trying to convey a point. His hands were going like this. And you could actually hear it in the cadence of how his hands were moving because he really wanted to describe what he was talking about, right? So that's a nice way to emphasize your points. Anyone else notice anything about his body language?
He seemed relaxed.
He seemed relaxed. Absolutely. What about his brand language? So, Michael, I know you brought up earlier the no clutter, the simple pictures. Do you feel like he established a brand language in his presentation?
I would say, yeah, because he appealed his brand as being as not just like trying to sell, but like trying to have a partnership, especially with like his brand memo. It's like your mission is our mission. It really shows how his brand isn't just like a separate entity. Like he wants to help you, like assist you in your journey. And also help like when he explained like the percent, like 14%, I think it was, because of the marketing. He was like appealing like out he like provides a solution to an issue, a common issue that most entrepreneurs have in their early development.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And he just hearing you talk about it, seems like you got a lot of takeaway from what he said, right? He kept your engagement. He didn't lose your attention. You actually walked away with knowledge about the Sphere company, right? Clean lines, simple lines. Definitely leans into that. So I'm glad you were able to get that example. I thought it would be helpful to actually see a scholar your age doing what you're doing and presenting virtually just to open up your mind to what you could do in your presentation. He also had transitions, right? Things were moving up on the screen. Facebook came in from the left and Instagram came in from the right. So he also did some creative presenting in terms of the animations in his PowerPoint. So that can also be something that can give your PowerPoint and your presentation a more creative zest and flair. All right. So thank you all for kind of thinking and reflecting about that. And hopefully, like I said, seeing different examples can just expand your presentation in a way that fits your style. What are 7 tips to improve your presentation skills? Record yourself. Learn to manage your emotions. What are you feeling in your body? What was that? Maybe that was an
Oh,
accident.
never mind.
Oh, okay. Never mind. Improve your nonverbal communication, right? So you want to be aware of what your hands are doing. The broadcaster said don't move your shoulders. Prioritize soft skill development. So you want to be sure that if you're communicating something serious, that's shown in your facial expressions. But if you're communicating something happy and joyful, that's also heard and seen through your facial expressions and your tone. Be receptive to feedback. You're going to get some really great constructive feedback on Thursday, and then ensure that you're communicating clearly and regularly. Practice, practice, practice. Look in the mirror. Ask your parents, siblings, aunts, cousins, friends to sit down and watch you present. And the more you do it, the more comfortable you will be. So, this is just a recap of everything that we covered today, the different types of communication: verbal, nonverbal, visual, and written, which impacts all that you do. Well, I thank you all for this time here together. I'm really excited about Thursday. How are you all feeling about Thursday? Any questions I can ask before we close out today's class? Jaslyn says no, shaking her head no. How are you feeling, Jaslyn, about Thursday? You ready?
Yeah, I'm excited.
Okay, good. Anyone else excited or any other feelings coming up for anybody else?
Yeah, I'm excited. Wait, do we get the certificate next week?
Yes. Yes, you do.
Online, so we gotta
There
put it in
is
the.
a rubric. There is a rubric, Harlem. Yes. I can share that with you. We'll be sure to email that to you. That way it's in your inbox. If I put it in the chat, could get lost in the sauce. So I'll put it in the email for you. Thank you, Ms. C. So Ms. C has shared the survey for today. Go ahead and submit your feedback about today's class. It's been an absolute pleasure reflecting and thinking about your presentations with you. Thinking about communication is such a key skill. So happy to also support. If any of you want to do like a mock presentation, feel free to record yourself. You can send it to us. We could take a look at it, offer feedback even ahead on Thursday. Also know that before class, traditionally, We give you a few minutes to present to your peers as a practice. So also be prepared to do that on Thursday. And yeah, we're really excited to see all of your presentations. You have great businesses, so this is just a way to tie it all together. So remember, you want to have a really strong story. You want to introduce yourself. You want to have your why. You want to have an objective, right? Why are you presenting to us? And then give us some really good data. Give us your passion and let that shine through in the way that you verbally communicate and through your body language. So with that said, I will leave you to do your survey. And yep, once you drop the D in the chat, go ahead and say your goodbyes to your peers. And we'll see you Thursday. Make sure your cameras are on Thursday and we can hear you. Good night, everyone.